Hi, this is Bailey, and I chose to do my media presentation regarding Macbeth with the minimum of 8 lines in length passage to talk about the biblical truth indirectly or directly connected to the play, as well as a current day issue. And I chose to do my media presentation through a movie, but I'm going to do it orally, as I feel as if presenting is one of my strengths and I can verbally get across my points a lot better while speaking. And I hope that's okay, and I hope you enjoy my presentation. So I chose Macbeth, and the passage that I chose was being cited by Lady Macbeth, and this is what she said. She said, "Oh, never shall sun that morrow see your face, my thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. To beguile the time, look like the time, bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue, took like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that coming must be provided for, and you shall put this nice grace business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom." And this passage really stood out for me. The thing I really like about Shakespeare and his plays is that he does make very many biblical connections throughout his plays, which I did notice quite thoroughly through the play of Macbeth, and especially some other plays such as even Romeo and Juliet, Othello, all of those great plays. But especially here I noticed, especially I'm going to focus in on when Lady Macbeth said, "Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent underneath it." And I think any really Christian would sort of get the biblical connection there, as serpent is such a strong, powerful choice of words here that Shakespeare chose to use as sort of a biblical connection. And what we can perceive that to be as a biblical connection is that the serpent can represent and directly represent the serpent from the Garden of Eden that persuade Adam and Eve to eat the apple from the forbidden fruit tree. So including that in the passage, you know that there is sort of a dark sort of feel behind her words. And really, I think Lady Macbeth was a little bit peer pressuring, sort of encouraging Macbeth to essentially murder Duncan. So she was saying, "Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent underneath it." Basically saying, people might be suspicious of this murder and to be evil, be, this sinful person that murdered, but don't come across that to other people, so that they don't suspect that you're a murderer, basically, essentially. What I wrote down here on my notes is that the serpent from Garden of Eden is representing sin and peer pressure in order to get a desirable thing, which was the apple in the case of Adam and Eve, but can also be perceived to, the apple can represent the murder of Duncan, essentially. So I thought that was so interesting, and it is a very, very, it came across very clearly to me that was a big biblical connection. Also, there's a modern day issue that we were to include, as I also sort of found it connecting with a biblical connection as well. So it's sort of all tied together. I found that the serpent, or sort of that sinful feel behind the symbolic word of the serpent, or Lady Macbeth, can also connect with modern day peer pressuring. Just like the serpent, modern day peer pressuring is such a current issue, especially when it comes to stuff like drugs and alcohol with teens. And I noticed that the murder, essentially, or the apple, can also represent drugs and alcohol. And that, the serpent in this case can represent my peers and the current day high school student, and it doesn't have to be a high school student, it can be anyone peer pressuring. Just like the serpent peer pressured Adam and Eve to eat the apple, it's people surrounding me, peer pressuring their peers to do drugs and alcohol, which can be the murder, can be the apple. It can also represent drugs. So that's sort of all tied in with the biblical truth as well, which I thought was quite interesting. And for my last part, I got some pictures to show you, which I got to sort of represent the imagery that I was seeing in my head. It's just a couple of photos of basically the story through photos is what I was trying to get across. So this is sort of what MacBeth quotes here as, come across as a delicate flower. So this is a delicate flower, but truly you are a serpent. And of course this serpent ties in with the fact that, oh look, it's the same serpent from Adam and Eve, and with the apple sort of luring in Adam and Eve to eat the apple. And this snake the snake essentially is peer pressuring Adam and Eve to eat the apple, just like modern day peer pressuring teens into doing drugs and alcohol. And I thought that the murder plus the apple of the serpent and the peer pressuring of everyday life all connected in so well together. And so essentially, I thought that Lady Macbeth, it's a huge thing nowadays to judge someone based on appearance, and how they are perceived and their reputation is a huge thing nowadays, which really, in reality, the outside appearance and essentially your reputation is really insignificant at the end of the day, when this is your true character and this is what's hiding on the inside. So I thought that this play was really powerful, and I think, it's super relevant towards modern day issues, which is also something I'll have to state in my essay coming up as to why I think Shakespeare is so important to teach youth, because it has some great biblical connections as well as some modern day connections. And I think it's super cool that through this online school we get to focus in on the biblical connections, because Shakespeare does, strive to include those throughout his plays, yet I feel they're very underrated and don't get recognized a lot in classroom situations. So I think it's really cool that we got to do this as a presentation, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I hope I hit everything you were looking for, and I hope I am able to do it orally, because I just feel super comfortable presenting information, and so I hope I got it across clearly. And thank you so much for listening and watching my video. Bye!